else and slipped away. One street over where my memories exist. I wonder what would change. I really couldn't say. In this life there's nothing certain, except the curtain that rises to the stage. Silly games of second guessing. I just forget the lessons that I couldn't learn. Because one street over there's a life I could have known that would have kept me from what I had today. Except the curtain that rises to the stage. Silly games of second guessing. I just forget the lessons that I couldn't learn. Because one street over there's a life I could have known would have kept me from what I had today.
Good morning. Let's get on into it, y'all. This is 1100 WSGI. I'm U-Turn LaVern, and this is One Street Over. What you doing? What you doing? It is a beautiful day. We're still getting a little touch of a little bit of a summer. I know one of my friends, she said, summer's back. Well, not really, but it is for maybe just a minute. I think we're going to have maybe 70s and 80s for the next couple of days.
Yesterday was a record. Today and tomorrow will be a record.
Okay, this is the man that can tell you. And so we're having some warm weather right now, and then it's going to jump right back down into the 50s. Bill Jones is joining us. Hello. We always love it.
Down to about 30 for the lows.
Wow.
So that'll feel real cold for us. We're not used to it. I was looking at some Japan figures the day before yesterday, and they're the hottest November they've ever had in Japan.
Wow.
Which we're not the only ones. So.
I know. Well, it's so weird. And people are like, it's global warming, it's this, it's that. I'm like, it's just the cycle of the weather and nature and the way God started it. And he just said, here you go. And it cycles through. This is not what we're going to talk about today, but we can sure go. I messaged Bill last night, and I said, I got an open slot in the morning if you want to come on in. And
I could see the Aurora Borealis night before last.
You're kidding.
It was late at night. I'm up,
Yeah.
It was late at night, about midnight or something. And that's rare here. It's such a strong magnetic field that I've seen it once before. My children were little. My son says, is Jesus coming back?
Oh, how funny. How funny. Well, they see it where Mark is from. He's, just south of Lake Superior, and it's a very common
thing. I'd see that
thing.
commonly.
And what would be the best time for me to see? Is it this time of the year, or is it?
No, it has to do with the solar flares. With the sun. It might happen any time of the year.
Really? Okay.
But they see it a lot up around Finland,
Yeah.
Northern England and all that. They get a lot of it. But it's real pretty up there. A lot of colors.
Well, in my husband's family, they will post things from time to time where they have seen it, and it's beautiful up in the peninsula. So,
but rarely does it get down this low.
Wow, that's cool. That's cool. But isn't it interesting? I mean, enjoy the weather. We'll talk about Corbin Creek here in a minute. This is a good time to get your garden ready. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But I want to jump right into. We've only got a half hour. I've got Amy Lawrence coming in. She is with NAMI, and that is mental health organization. And I think it's one of those things that we just can't. She was at the recovery court the other day, and she and I have gotten to be friends, and we've talked off and on, and I'll think, I need to get her in there. And then the next thing I know, it's been a year and I haven't talked to her. But it's one of those things that we have to be mindful of because it's such a prevalent thing in our society, and it seems to be getting worse after COVID. A lot of people are just getting caught up in mental health issues, and they're not getting the help they need. and we can't. We have a mental health court now, which is so necessary. Having worked with the
Right, I'm
homeless
glad.
community, oh my goodness, guys, man, you and I were
Been a
talking.
void for a long time.
Yes, and we were talking about when we sat down how that so many have mental health issues, and then situations in their life will cause it to escalate and will make it worse.
Key it off.
Yeah, because none of us have perfect lives. And so some things are just more difficult for people to cope with. And I told Bill, he messaged me last week, what are we going to talk about? I said, I think it's kind of interesting that we talk about, the times we're living in. Well, you know what? We are living in some extraordinary times. It's not perfect. And yes, there's things we
Much better than it used to be
Good Lord.
as far as mental health.
Well, and in so many things, Bill, I like to say that we're not what we ought to be. We're not what we used to be. At least we're not, or we're not what we ought to be. We're not what we're going to be, but at least we're not what we were.
Used to be. Yeah.
You know, and I'm quoting Designing Women, if you want to know where that came from. That's another story.
I thought it was me.
No, but well, there was a quote. It's a long story. I told Bill, I said, so talk to me a little bit about where we were historically, because Bill is the history guy. He is the one that can talk to you about anything historical. And I think it's something that we need to appreciate, the fact that we deal with it differently. You know, even my sister suffered from, was bipolar. And if we had identified it earlier, it could have helped her so much. And that was in the 60s and 70s. If we could have pinpointed what was happening, how much more, but there was a stigma. You know, you didn't want to admit to having some things going on that, you know, could affect you from your mental health perspective, because, oh my goodness, it was, you know, they'd put you in asylums and different things like that. And just, I know when growing up in West Kentucky, if you struggled with anything and people wanted to say you had, you know, mental issues, to say, we're going to send you to Hoptown. We're going to send you to Hopkinsville, you know, and there was I guess a mental health place there, asylum or something. I'm not really sure, but I know that was the idiom, you know, for West Kentucky is like, well, you're going to go to Hoptown. What was it here? Did you, because I'm sure y'all had one, right?
Not a mental thing. They had poorhouses, and they would put what we call mental patients in a poorhouse or in jails. I have records of, they had one woman I know in a poorhouse in Nashville, and they thought she was crazy, but she couldn't speak English.
Yes,
she spoke a foreign language, and she just went sort of off the keel there because she couldn't understand them. They couldn't understand her. So they said, well, just put her in the poorhouse, and they put her in a room. And just when the county court went to inspect, they hadn't changed her clothes. They hadn't done, and she was in bad shape. But back then, you know, we had a poor farm here all around 1830, started somewhere like that. And people, indigent and people with mental problems, they put them in the poor farm. Or they had places called sanatoriums, sanitarium, same thing. And that was for particular diseases usually. Or they had a pest house for a particular disease. And mental patients would end up there a lot of times in the old days, the 1800s. And then they began to have asylums, you know, later. So it wasn't handled well at all in the old days. And Nashville, we've always heard of Middle Tennessee, or what is it, Tennessee, mental health place over there near the airport, and that was started in 1852. Central State, that's what we call it. I remember.
So that would be the idiom to what we would say would be Hopkinsville, you know, back, you know, because we had a place
that was a place, the counties had a certain number they could send to Central State. Like you could send 3 per year or 4 or 5. And so if that was filled up, they'd have to send them somewhere. And sometimes they ended up in a poorhouse or jail, inmate. You know, it's just, you know, they didn't know. And a lot of people committed suicide. A lot of people, you know, imbalanced would commit murders. They just didn't understand, or they couldn't adjust them with medication or anything like that. So it was just, they couldn't handle it. They had to put them somewhere, and they just couldn't handle it. So it's really sad, you know, that occurred. And some people were not that, you know, maybe it was just after they had a woman had a child, postpartum depression, she was considered a mental case and put away.
Wow.
And a lot of them were women, and we see old movies there where people were put in hospitals for the rest of their life because of maybe a minor thing that could be corrected easily today. Mm-hmm. So, we're much better today than we were, but want to be better. I'm sure so glad after reading the history of all this stuff that we have this court set up now for cases like that. And like you said earlier, we all have those times, we need some help. And some medication or something, and especially it's so stressful today too. It tends to put your nerves on edge, and some people a little edgier than others, So they had names in the old days for different IQs of people, which has become idioms today that people use in languages like idiot, moron, things like that. But they had different levels of names they called people back then, and lunatics they thought was affected by the moon, and that's why they were called lunatics. And Tennessee changed that term in a Mental Health Act, 1959, to persons of unsound mind. They quit using that lunatic term.
So that was an official term.
It was an official term,
really?
Yeah. Lunatic, idiots, morons. They had different grades.
Really?
Of what their IQ was.
Like I said, we're doing okay, guys. I mean, think about where we've been, and I just think with Amy coming in here, I think we forget, how we've overcome so much of the stigma that goes along with it. That's horrifying.
Well, today you'll hear somebody say, "You idiot," Well, that's a term we use today. We shouldn't anymore, but it was a rated level of intelligence back in the early 1900s.
That's amazing.
Up until 59, they changed it in the Health Act. But, it's interesting to see, and I hate to see it, what people did with people back then. And families, sometimes they just stick them in a room, shut the door, and that's what they did with them. Just fed them and didn't take them anywhere because they were family and they could take care of them. But if it were people who didn't have family and couldn't be taken care of, then they would be put in a poorhouse or hospital or sanitarium, and people had money. We had a sanitarium up at Ridgetop, and people in Nashville had money, would place those people in the sanitarium that had mental issues.
Well, see, and so often too, then they found that those places that were supposed to be, helping were actually,
they put them in straitjackets. How did they help them? They didn't do anything for them.
Yeah.
So fortunately, people can be healed today and adjusted with medications, the right medications and counseling, and we're in much, much better shape today. And we're doing a better job than most people think, I think.
Well, and Amy will tell you about the meetings that they have here locally. If you have somebody in your family that, I wanted to just kind of talk about the history of it to help people understand. We've got to move past the stigma that is associated with mental health. I think about Shonda Pierce. Do you know who she is? She's a comedian, a Christian comedian. She dealt with depression and mental health issues and was very public about it.
What's her name?
Shonda Pierce.
Oh, yeah.
Shonda.
Little blonde girl.
Yeah, and she's from up in Ashland City. And she dealt with her mental health struggles very publicly. And I think it's the same kind of thing that we deal with when we're in Celebrate Recovery. We let people stand up and say, yeah, I struggle with that too. And I think that so many people think that, well, I can't tell people that I'm having some mental health issues. And it's funny though, my students, they've been educated to be very outspoken. It's like, I'm struggling. And so they're pretty honest about it. And I think that's healthy. As long as they don't try to, sometimes you think,
I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, you don't want to be a hypochondriac about mental health, just like you don't want to be a hypochondriac about your
sometimes
physical
just to get
health.
attention, especially in teenagers.
Yes, but now I'm not. I would never discourage any of them from being honest about it. But you can kind of see the ones it's just like there's always something going on, but then maybe there is always something going on, and then some that's like, well, my friend is, so I am too. You know what I mean, kind of thing. So you have to. It is difficult in the teaching world these days. Trying to just, of course, you just always have to take anything seriously because you just never know. But I'm glad that they're more open and honest about their feelings than they used to be. I think it's. I think that's healthier than holding it in for sure.
You just want, I think of times in the past people committed suicide and no one ever suspected anything.
Yeah.
And I thought, no, there should have been signs. They just didn't notice it and didn't have any help or medication or anything for it.
Well, in that spiritual community, that's what concerns me. I think the most right now for the young people is so many of them are just they don't know God. They don't know God, and they don't understand the spiritual piece that you get from faith in God. And so and all you can do is just show them you care. Just keep showing them you care, and hopefully they'll ask questions because that's key. I think oftentimes my sister that struggled, and I've been very open and honest, about that. And I hope she doesn't mind. She's, but she struggled. There's so many things she struggled with that kept her from going over the edge because of her faith. That gave her a foundation to keep her from going to a suicide or things like that. Because there was times she struggled greatly. And, but because of her faith, that kept her grounded. And she told me that many times. So,
on the other side, I've had people who are unbelievers. They talk about, well, religion is just a crutch. Well, yeah, it is sometimes, it's something you have to have to lean on, in your weakest moments.
That's what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah.
But they're not talking about it like that, but
right.
They act like they can take care of everything, but there is foundation there in the scriptures, and they need other people to talk to that's well-grounded in the word too. And there's so many people around it. And as I said earlier to you in a text this last night, I said, everyone needs a checkup from the neck up.
Yes, they do.
But how do you get that? A lot of medical doctors don't know what to do. They they're not well-versed in that field, and they'll send you somewhere else. But you really do need a checkup from the neck up.
I love it. Yeah.
Often, regularly. And I know some people in my family that go to psychologists regularly, and just they don't have a particular big problem, but they go and sit down and talk. And if they have some family problems or something, they sit down and work it out. And that way it heads off anything big.
Yeah.
You work out the little problems, heads it off. And we really, I think, ought to have a situation like that where people you can go to talk to about marriage problems. I have a friend, his marriage is solid as a rock, but he still looks at videos and reads books about marriage. He and his wife do. Mm-hmm. And I thought, that's a pretty good idea.
Yeah,
it doesn't allow you to get down the road with a problem till it's insurmountable. Mm-hmm. Work out the little things first. It's the little foxes that spoil the vines, as the word says. So I think instead of laughing at it and making jokes of it, you ought to consider, sitting down and talking to somebody, whether it's a professional or a friend or wife or husband or whatever, and lay it out on the table. Here's what I'm struggling with or having a problem with.
Well, the scripture that comes to mind is make it your common practice to confess your sins to each other so that you can pray for each other,
James.
so that you can be healed. And, I use that verse all the time when I'm talking about Celebrate Recovery, but it wasn't until probably, I don't know, a few months ago that I read the few words right before it. It says, make it your common practice. I was always, confess your sins to each other so you can pray for each other and you can be healed. But it's make it your common practice. And so it's something we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be talking about that. That's why I thought this was a good way to set up Amy's visit in here, because we have those opportunities through NAMI. They meet, and you can be a part of that. And if you're maybe, I had a student talk to me recently about needing counseling. They know they need counseling, and I don't really know where to point them, except to the counseling at school. Today. But I'm going, this person needs to have somebody to talk with. And I don't really know. That's one thing. I'm trying to navigate those waters at school to see how we get them the help they need, because they obviously do.
Well, sometimes you feel like you can't do any good with somebody because you're not trained. But a lot of times, all people need is just somebody to listen to them.
Yes,
just listen. And surprisingly, going to counselors and psychologists, all they do is listen, give you a book, but they don't tell you, well, you do this and you do that, but they listen. And that solves a lot of problems. Just somebody that genuinely will listen to you and sympathize with you.
That's one of the things with Celebrate Recovery, and we're going to be there at Epiphany tonight if you want to come join us. And it's just an opportunity just to sit and just say, "Hi, I just need to share this." I just need to unburden it. And that's one of the foundational things that program is all about. We're talking with Bill Jones. He is our local historian, and I just wanted to kind of unpack where we've been with this and to look beautifully at where we are now and where we're going. And, we're not what we ought to be. We're not what we're going to be, but at least we're not what we were on this. And I think that's a powerful thing. But let's do pause. I want to go ahead and talk about Corbin Creek because the weatherman's here. And did you ever garden? Did you?
Not anymore.
But did you used to?
I don't want to get on my knees.
I love to garden. I just don't have time right now. But the one thing.
Some potted plants up on the stand.
I love to have a good vegetable garden. Now, I live, down in an area where if I don't fence it really well, the deer and the rabbits and all that just take my wonderful produce before I can get to it. But I have always been of the belief that whenever you want to garden and garden well, you have to do fall prep. You have to clear out what you did. You got to get the ground ready and get it tilled so that when you don't want to wait until spring for that. Everybody's like, okay, my garden's done. If you don't clean that out now, and right now we've got some weather here in the next few days, and I know it's getting dark. Oh, it's getting dark. I came in late yesterday. Normally I could work till 7, 8 o'clock. And get things done. But now it's like 5 o'clock and it's dark and I'm tired. Oh, but you guys got to push through. But get out and clean those gardens out and get them tilled and get them ready because cool weather vegetables go in the ground mid-February, y'all. And if you want to be able to, do that and produce and get some great stuff going in the spring, now's the time to take care of that. Go and talk to Amy about it and about exactly what you need to do to get your ground ready to make sure it's ready for the spring. You can go out to and go through the gift shop there and get some wonderful handcrafted items from Miss Jane, get some CBD products, maybe put those in stockings this year because you know somebody that's struggling with pain and arthritis, and it may just be the thing that will just help them tremendously. You can go in the gift shop and check that out. That's local CBD products produced from the plants her brother Bill grows. They've got pansies still. If you want to come out and get some pansies that will, still make it through a lot of the cool weather that we have. So they love this stuff, and that'll be some fall color for you. And just any of your garden questions, now's the time to go and talk to her when it's not quite so busy. 4920 Highway 161 is where they're located, 4920 Highway 161. But you can call them at 615-384-3185. 615-384-3185. They're on winter hours now, 10 to 4, Monday through Saturday. Sunday, they're open from 1 to 4. And she's doing a lot of Christmas decorating, too. So you just need to reach out to her and catch her. But when you get in touch with her, please let her know that you turned cinch in. Let her know her ad dollars are working. Thank her for helping sponsor One Street Over. All right, Mr. Bill Jones, what else do we need to cover?
I remember reading about in the West Tennessee, they had a Western State Hospital, mental hospital, and they would allow one person in each county. They would allow one person per 4,000 people in that county to enter that hospital a year. So there were a lot more patients that needed to be there, but that's all they would allow. It was taxpayer funded.
If they were actually helping them, though, that's the thing. And oftentimes we found out that they weren't at all.
All you have to do is watch old movies,
Good Lord. You mentioned the woman that spoke into the language. What was do you know what the backstory on? Like, where was she from? What language did she speak? Did they get her some help?
It was a European language and may have been German, but I'll have to read up and see. Yeah. But I remember the only reason they found out that the county court made quarterly inspections of pest houses and all that, and they found her in this filthy condition, couldn't speak English, and she was ranting and raving. And they thought she was mentally ill, where she just couldn't understand and couldn't get anything across, and nobody cared. That's a key to all this. You got to have somebody that cares, and to work with people like that. I'm sure it takes a lot of training, and I don't have, but I can imagine that they go through a lot.
Well, when working with the homeless community, there were people that would come in that we would help, and it was sometimes they would get off their medication, or they didn't have access to it because they were homeless, and you could see such a difference in the way they would act. And they would come in and just be completely different from what they were the week before, and you knew it was because they had not had access or just failed to go and pick up their medication, and it made all the difference in the world. But
I'm sure
it's just a different world, guys. I'm so thankful for organizations like NAMI and the opportunities here, and they do meet locally. I know when Amy came in and they were just getting started up, probably a couple of years ago, I'm thinking now, when she first came in, and they're meeting regularly now, and we do have a mental health court. So we're getting better and better, and I just think we cannot spend enough. I mean, we just absolutely have to make sure people are aware that this is available. If you've got somebody in your life that you know is struggling and needs some help, then, definitely reach out to the folks at NAMI. But Amy will be in here. She may already be here. I don't know if she's out there or not. I may do an ad and let you go and peek around the corner and see if she's here. But what else do you think we need to cover before we, there she is. She is here. What else do you think we need to cover?
Well, I just see a note I had on the woman we were talking about. It was German, and she was considered speechless and no reasoning ability.
Wow.
Because she couldn't speak the language.
Isn't that incredible?
And that, and they rated her as a dumb person.
Yeah.
They had morons, imbeciles, idiots, dumb, all these terms that we use as idioms today, but
we
they
had
were
no idea what they
titles.
originated. How incredible.
And they hid people back then.
Yeah.
They would, in fact, mental institutions in the state, you had to give them 30 days notice before you could even bring somebody over there. You couldn't just pop out of the bag and go and put them in a straitjacket, but it's so different today, so much better.
Yeah.
But I think the main bottom line is we need to realize we all have a problem at some time or other. Even those who think they have no problems, they probably don't recognize it.
Like what you sent me in that text. What was it you said? We need to
check up from the neck up.
From the neck up. And,
once a year, but
there you go. So
you really do. And once people get into the habit of doing it, like I said, I know somebody goes to a psychologist regularly, maybe once a month or every 2 months or something, and they talk about anything, about their job, their marriage, their whatever, and it keeps them on a level ground instead of getting offshoot. And I think that's a very smart thing to do. And we all need to talk to somebody, as I said earlier, and somebody needs to be a good listener and not criticize, give advice, just listen.
Yeah, that's the thing. Sometimes you don't need to fix it. You just need to listen.
Right. Men have a way of, they want to fix everything. And they got to come to the realization they just need to be listeners of their children, especially teenagers.
Yeah.
And the kids that have problems or the young adults, just listen. And then they get used to knowing, well, mom and daddy are going to listen to me. They're not going to criticize me, so I'll tell them more. And so here you go. It's a good path to go.
Yeah. And two, I was just like some of my students, they'll talk to me and I'll just say, what can I do to help you?
Yeah.
And I'll just ask that question. And sometimes they're like, it's okay. Just listen.
Just listen.
And and that's what we just all have got to get better at listening and to help direct to the places where you can listen, like NAMI. We've got Amy. I saw her standing out there, so she's headed in. But
I am no professional, don't know anything. I just know from personal experience, listening is really, really helpful for somebody to listen to.
Well, thank you, and we love listening to you, brother.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming in. Give your bride a hello from me. And thank you guys for joining us. This is One Street Over. Amy Lawrence with NAMI is coming in right now as we speak. And I am going to pause as she's making her way in here. And I'm going to, based on what, he said, I'm going to continue to invite you to Celebrate Recovery, which is happening tonight at Epiphany. We'll be there starting at 5:45 with dinner. We have the large group at 6:30 and then open share, a place where you can just talk at 7:30. And then Amy's going to share with you all the things going on with NAMI and the things we have happening here that, if this is a struggle for you, you need to be a part of. But let's talk about Barry and Rebecca Richards with the Exit Realty Garden Gate team. We talk about the fact that they help each other. They are partners. They are married. They've been up in Cross Plains for 27 plus years. And so they specialize in Robertson County properties, but they also buy and sell in the surrounding counties and across the state line in Kentucky. And they are separate brokers. They will always be there to help each other. Rebecca, one of the first in the area to be a seniors real estate specialist. She knows how to cross those T's and dot those I's and stay studied up. Barry came out of a marketing background for over 17 years, was a vice president of a media marketing company in Nashville. Can you imagine having a marketer on your team when it comes to property that you want to sell? They're going to make sure that you've got all the photography, all the videography, walkthrough tours if you need those, drone footage if you need that, to market it and make sure that when people are flipping through the listings, they're going to pause on yours and take a second look at it. That is priceless when it comes to the real estate community. You've got Barry, the broker up here in Springfield. Rebecca's the broker in White House. They have separate offices. You'll find separate web pages for them. If you Google Barry Richards Exit Realty Garden Gate Team, Rebecca Richards Exit Realty Garden Gate Team, you're going to get completely different web pages that talk about the things that they bring to the table. But also, both pages will give you a chance to have a search engine where you can put in a zip code, say this is an area I'm wanting to sell in or buy in, to give you an idea of what you're looking at price-wise. So reach out to them today. Again, Barry, the broker up here in Springfield. Rebecca's in White House. You can connect to them at sellwithbecky.com, sellwithbecky.com, or just Google them. That's one of the easiest ways to get a hold of anybody these days. And if you want Rebecca's number, it's 615-504-7425, 615-504-7425. And for all of our sponsors, please always let them know that U-Turn sent you, and let them know their ad dollars are working. And if you're somebody that's wanting to do some advertising on One Street Over, guess what? We've got a couple of spots that are available, and you can reach out to me on private messenger, and we'll see if we can hook you up and get you started on the schedule as well. Amy is in the house. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. It's a good morning.
It is
Nice
a beautiful
sunshine
morning. I know. As
know.
Bill was telling us that, he's the weatherman too, and he said this is, a record high
Yes.
for this time of the year, but we're going to enjoy it.
Yes, enjoy it.
Sure.
And it was so sunny when I woke up this morning.
I know. Well, and that's the price we pay when we fall back. We get to wake up to the sunshine rather than the darkness. But then coming home last night, and I had things I needed to do, and it was already dark, and I was like, ugh. And let's just kind of let that kind of be our transition, our little segue into mental health, because I can imagine that is something that's hard for people to deal with that struggle with depression, and it's just like dark. They enjoy that morning wake up, but most people get up after the sun's up anyway. I'm kind of unusual. I don't. But that darkness in the evening, does that not cause people to get a little more foreboding? And
It sure does.
Yeah.
There is an actual called seasonal affective disorder.
And so that again, it's called
seasonal affective disorder.
Okay.
It's a depression that you get during the winter months. And I know for me specifically, I'm having a treatment done to keep me going through this winter months so that I don't have my depression react again, because I react to the weather with the sunlight in the morning. But then, you walk out of the office and it's dark.
It's dark.
And I know that for me, it's very depressing having all that nighttime. It's our Seneca, our clocks in our minds. They get changed, and even just that hour will knock you off completely.
Wow.
You would think that an hour wouldn't make that much difference, but it does.
Interesting.
I know for me, you'll think that it's 9 o'clock and it's only 5.
Yeah.
And so it makes it for a very longer, very humdrum evening.
Maybe that's the angle we need to approach our Congress and our Senate on is for our mental health, we need you to stop making us change time.
Yes.
Maybe, because they're all concerned about the mental health. Maybe they'll go, oh, yeah.
Yeah, that might be
That may be the angle.
Yeah, that
I'm just
might get
saying.
her to do it, to stop changing that time on us.
I know, because I would love it if they would just cut it out.
Yeah. 'Cause
just
I'd love
like,
having the light in the evening.
Yes.
We need it more now.
For sure.
A long time ago, they needed it that way, but
For
now
farming.
we don't need it that way.
Well, I can remember. I'm a farm girl. I can remember needing to be in the fields until late. My brother's, he's harvesting soybeans right now, but they've got lights on everything. So
Right.
I've seen my brother will go through the night if it's
Oh,
about
wow.
to rain because he's got lights and stuff now. And so it's a different world. It is a different world than when we set that up. And so we need to fix it.
Yes, we need to go back to
I agree.
changing the time. Don't change the time. Give
us
us
alone.
our daylight alone.
Maybe we can, I that may be the angle though.
Yep.
For the mental health, we need to stop
Nami
it.
will have to work on doing that and get them to talk to them about it and say, hey, this is a reason why we don't need to do it.
Yes, I think that's a great idea. We're going to start a campaign right now.
Yeah.
I'll reach out to Senator Kerry Roberts and to Sabi Kumar and to we're trying to get Mark Green in. He's our representative, federally now.
Oh, okay.
And so we've been talking back and forth, guys. It's not on him. It's not on me. We just can't get our schedules together.
Yeah.
And we're trying to get him in here on a regular basis, and that'll be one that I'll pitch him. I'll be like, "Here's your angle.
Yeah.
Here's your angle. Get it done for us."
For sure.
Because when I came home last night, I was like, "Ugh."
Yeah.
Ugh. Yeah.
I came out of my doctor's appointment because I have my treatment last night. And when I came out, it was like, oh, dark.
Yeah. Was it light? Is it light therapy that you're talking about?
No, there's a new treatment uses esketamine, Spravato. And you actually go to the doctor's office. They have to have a REMS unit. And you actually spray a nasal spray in your nose, each side, 5 minutes apart, 3 times. And then that esketamine works on the neurotransmitters and gets those brain neurons firing again that are that sad neurons.
Yeah, they're wanting to kind of go.
Yeah. And so I go once a week now, and I go do that at the office. You are off for a little while, so you have to you can't drive for 24 hours.
Oh, okay.
But someone has to take you and pick you up.
Okay.
And that, but because it's mind altering a little bit.
Oh, okay.
And but it's not anything difficult or anything like that.
Do you see improvement?
Yes, I have had. This is the first treatment that I've had for depression, and I'm 57. So this is, and I've had depression since my early 20s. And this is the first one where I could actually say that my suicidal thoughts have stopped.
Wow.
My feeling like the shoe is going to fall or feeling heavy. I actually feel like it's brighter and things are better for me. Now, is that the be-all, end-all thing for everybody? No. And this is for treatment-resistant depression. I've been on like about 5 or 6 medications to try and treat my depression, and they haven't worked. And so this is a final result that, okay, we're going to try this one now. And it's done wonders for me.
So have you ever, something that we do in our house, just because we get up so early, people have no, I come in here kind of, on 2 wheels sometimes at 6, but I've been up since 4, so we get up very early. We call it dark 30. It's just always been my life, because I've always been in radio. My husband was a roofing contractor. They would get up at the crack of dawn. I mean, we would always get up in the dark. And so we have found some, just kind of helps us kind of get going in the morning. Those we have the lights in our kitchen that we'll turn on, and they're kind of, but it just kind of wakes you up. It just kind of gets things going. And I have seen,
they have actually lamps that you can order.
We've got some lamps and stuff like that.
Those, just a couple hours a day helps that clock in your mind. Wake it up. And, we just don't realize how heavy depression is. Depression's very heavy. It's very painful because you hurt physically and mentally. And I know, like, when I'm depressed, I don't even want to be with me, so I can imagine other people not, because a lot of times people are like, I don't want to hang around with them. They're always down and, you know, but they can't really get themselves out. And some people, they don't realize that if they would go to a doctor, that they might be able to help them. And it's not always medication that they use. Sometimes it's just teaching them to take and give positive affirmations to yourself instead of negative affirmations. Because I know for me, that loop plays over and over again that, oh, you're hopeless, nothing's going to get better. Things are always going to get worse for you. And, and so you have to learn to use positive self-talk. You need to rely on your higher power.
Amen.
And because I know without him, I know for me at one point, I got to where I couldn't even pray for myself.
Wow.
And I had to have someone else do the praying for me.
Yeah.
And that helped me. And so, it's something I struggle with all the time, but it's gotten better. And but it's something that I deal with constantly.
And it's like Bill and I were talking, and I said, this is something that I can look at seasons of my life that I was struggling, that I didn't even really realize it.
Right.
And I can remember those times of prayer where you just go, let the Holy Spirit intercede
Yes.
and take the prayers, because you don't even know the words. You don't
That's
have the
right.
words. And so, and for me, because I've got such a deep faith background, that got me through.
Yes.
There's too many people out there now that have no foundation in faith, and so they don't have anywhere to start. And that's
right.
what I'm dealing with students right now. So many of my students have no foundation in faith.
No.
And so I don't have anywhere to start with them in that regard. And I have them, it's like I was telling Bill, I will ask my students, what can I do to help you?
Yes.
And sometimes they just want to talk, but I do have, from time to time, I have a student that I think they need therapy. So let's there's so much we could talk about, Amy. I probably could have brought you in here for an hour, but what do we do? So let's talk about, we have these meetings now, NAMI.
Yes.
And how long has that been going on? I want to say a couple of years.
We've been doing it a couple of years now.
Yeah.
We have a support group that meets on Thursday nights, the third Thursday night of the month at the YMCA now.
Okay.
And then we have one that meets on the second Tuesday at the Stokes Brown Public Library
Wonderful.
at 1:00 on Tuesday.
So,
So those are the ones we have right now.
So there's two different chances, and you've got the Y and you've got the library. I
Yes.
love that you've got them in those kind of safe places.
Yes.
I think that's important. I
Yes.
think that's important.
And we were meeting at the hospital, but we found like that kind of gave it a stigma.
Yeah.
Because, that's where sick people go. Well, it's not that we're sick. It's just we deal with something.
Well, and I'll tell you too, as soon as you said the library and the Y, I was like, oh yeah, because I thought you were still meeting at the hospital. And for me, the stigma is not the hospital. I just don't have to deal with parking at the hospital and and trying to figure out where I'm going. I love our hospital, but any hospital just confuses me, And so I'm just, if you have something in a hospital, I have to go get blood work done. I just don't, I want to go to like some little side clinic. I don't want to have to go deal with the big hospital, because I'm just like, where do I go? And so that's my struggle. And, but I think that taking that stigma out of being at a hospital too is brilliant, to have it at the library and in the Y, those safe places. But, so do you have something that I could refer young people to, high school students?
Yes, we have a website that NAMI Tennessee created. It's called teenmh.org.
Okay.
And it's specifically for the teens that you can actually, and I can send you a flyer for it.
If you would do that. I had talked to one of my vice principals about putting up the suicide prevention hotline and different things like that. I have got to get some posters made because we can get them done for free there by the teacher center. We need to have these things on the wall for these kids.
I'll make sure I get them to you.
That along with, I've got several posters. Teacher Center, I'm coming to see y'all. I need to talk to them about their book best too, but bookmobile. But these are two posters that need to be made for our schools, and every single one of the schools in the district need these, because I've talked to too many kids. They don't know where to turn.
That's right.
And we need to just put that out there for them.
Yes, they need it's teenmh.org.
Okay.
And it's for just strictly for teenagers.
Okay.
And it's really neat. It has lots of where you can do blogs, a lot of YouTube videos for them to look at.
Okay.
Other teenagers talking about their mental health and different things. So it's really good.
Awesome. I love that. Well, we'll get that. And if you have any questions, how can people get in touch with you for anything that's going on with NAMI? And if you're not I don't know if I mentioned you. I ran into Amy at Recovery Court the other day at the graduation, and one of we have our class, my audio video classes in groups.
Yeah.
And one of the first things they had to do was do a PSA. And one of my groups, they were looking for something. I said, well, and they wanted to do something about mental health. And I pointed them to NAMI. And they're like, oh, this is great, Ms. Vivio. Mm-hmm. And so they found all this information.
Yes.
And they weren't even aware of NAMI.
Right.
And so we need to get the word out about what NAMI is all about. So what's the elevator speech to say people, hey, do you know there's this organization called NAMI? How would you explain it to them?
I would say there's NAMI, which is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. It's for families and friends and those with mental health conditions, that if they're looking for someone to somewhere to get support, if they need a website to go to, get education, that we're there for them. And we're there for advocacy and education and support. That's what we're there for.
Very good. And just it is something that's, you can just NAMI will get you to NAMI, and you'll find out all the things that they have going on. And I'm just so thankful for my friend Amy and what she's done to get these meetings going here. And it was, again, just in the last couple of years, it's just been happening. So you've got these 2 meetings that you can go to, 2 different opportunities, one on a Tuesday. What was the Tuesday night?
Second Tuesday of each month at 1:00 at the Stokes Brown Library, and then the third Thursday at the YMCA at 6:30 p.m.
Okay, good. So I was just saying that there needs to be an evening one. And this is not NAMI, but I'm just going to invite you again. Celebrate Recovery, guys. This is a place where you can go and talk, and they're meeting all over the place. We've got one at Epiphany tonight that I'm a part of. We've got one at Madison Church of Christ tomorrow night that I'm a part of. They've got them at Long Hollow on Monday night. They're all over the place, but that is a place, if you're just needing, you're saying, well, I can't get to the meetings that Amy's mentioned. There's something every single night of the week going on. And I cannot tell you enough, when it comes to something like Celebrate Recovery, and it is like maybe a third the people come in with alcohol and drug. It's the rest of it's all life issues. Have you ever been to a Celebrate Recovery?
Yes, I have. I used to do Celebrate Recovery all the time.
They're wonderful.
And it's a wonderful draw. Yes, okay.
Tuesday night.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll be there tonight.
It's a wonderful thing to do. In people with mental health, a lot of them have dual diagnosis where they have drug addictions. And that have even happened from medications that they were put on for their mental health. I was one that had a drug addiction because of a medication that I was put on for my mental health.
Oh, wow.
And it was an 18-year addiction.
God bless
you.
And
so Celebrate Recovery got me through a lot of things, those 12 steps and working it through and realizing that there's other things behind your mental health condition, things that caused it or that made it rear its ugly head, is the way to say it, because that can be there. There's trauma-based depression, there's trauma-based PTSD, of course, and trauma, it doesn't mean just military. A lot of people think PTSD is only the military. PTSD is not anymore.
Well, especially when you talk about the different things that I've heard people are exposed to as in their childhood.
Yes,
it breaks my heart. And abusive relationships, all of those things, and the trauma that stays with them forever. There's a preacher that I've used this example many times, but I love the illustration. Bobby Davis up at Life Church, and in Cookeville, and he talks about how he had a drug addiction for many, many years. And he said that, he goes, a lot of people who've gone through difficult things in their life, he says, let's say I'm going through an intersection and I'm obeying the law and I'm doing exactly what I need to do, and somebody runs over my car and just does all kinds of damage to it. And I was completely innocent.
Right.
And he goes, I've got several choices. Number one, I can go around going, look what they did to my car. Look what they did to my car. Look what they did to my car, and doing nothing to fix it. I can become the person that's like, well, it happened to me, so I'm going to do it to you. And I'm going to start running over everybody's car and saying, see how it feels, see how it feels. Or he says, I can go and fix it. It may not have been something I can get help. I can get help to fix it, to a body shop, and he equates that to the body of Christ, of course.
Yes.
But he says, because even though it wasn't my fault, it is my problem.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, yeah, there's so many things in our life that aren't our fault, but they are our problem.
That's true.
And we have to seek help at a body shop.
Yes.
Somewhere. And where you ever find that, I invite you to come find it in a body of faith with a congregation of believers and people. I just can't tell you enough what Jesus will do in your life, folks. I'm just saying.
Yes.
But, if you're not there, go somewhere.
Go somewhere, yes.
And find a body of people like NAMI that will help you cope with it. And even if it's not your fault, it's your problem that you have to face. Right. And the only way to do it is just to
actually face it. Yeah. And go through it, unfortunately. We just have to go through it.
Right.
And but on the end, I know that everything that I've gone through, God's taken and turned it around for his good.
Yeah.
And all that negative and terrible things that occurred, God's turned it around for me. Yeah. And I'm able to use it and share with others. That's a lot of things, is when people get willing to share their about their mental health. Because let's face it, Robertson County does not want to talk about mental health.
No.
We're back in the 80s and 70s where we don't talk about mental health and that kind of thing. And so we just got to get to where we're able to free that stigma and start talking about it.
Well, and our kids are doing better.
Yes, they are.
They really are. And I'm proud to see that. Now, that's the one thing that I was telling Bill. I said, I don't want them to get obsessed with it.
Correct.
And it to become, because I mean, we can become, I couldn't think of another word other than, we don't want to have that hypochondriac attitude. Is like, I've got a problem.
Yeah.
It's like, be realistic about it and don't be like, okay, I've got a problem because my friend has a problem. Do you really? And you need to analyze that because you don't want to invite that on yourself.
That is true.
And so I think that I think we always kind of get to that. We go to one extreme to the other. Yes. We're not talking about it now. We're like, everything's mental health.
Right.
It's, there's so many things that I can equate that to. But the big thing is just very honestly looking at your mental. You were talking about how that, there's times you didn't want to be with yourself and you can imagine other people didn't want to be around you. And so I can think back on my life. I went through something whenever I first came to Nashville at Lipscomb. And I remember one of my suite mates said to me, because I was not a fun person to be around. And she said to me, if I had to hang out with you all the time, I'd stay depressed. And I was like, wow. And that was all. And honestly, that's all I needed to go, what are you doing with your life? Yeah. And it woke me up.
Right. You just need to know that one thing. I
needed that one thing. I just needed some real hard truth spoken into my life. But not everybody can do that. I believe, without a doubt, my solid foundation in faith is what helped me. Yeah. So many don't have that anymore. Right. So what do we do?
What do we do? Yeah. That's what NAMI's for, and that's what we're here for. We're there to support others. I know that Hannah Sadler and Susan Walker just took our In Our Own Voice presenter program, and they are able now to go out and share their story with people. So if anyone's looking for us to come share our stories, we'll be glad to come out. I was just out with the Lions Club and shared my story with them. And, that's what we do is we go share our stories so that other people might know that they're not alone and that there is hope and there is help out here. And it's both for the family and those with mental health conditions, because a lot of people forget about the family. The family's just as affected as much as the person with it.
You bet.
Because they have to deal with, the repercussions that happen from our mental health. And, my Rick has to take me every Monday. And so it takes 5 hours out of his day to take care of me. And that, because I can't take myself.
Right.
And so it affects our family members, whether we want to face that or not. A lot of times, even today, everybody's about, nothing affects anyone else. The consequences don't exist. And, but everything we do is like a rock that is dropped and a pebble that's dropped in the water. And you have that ripple effect, and it just goes out and affects others. And that's the same thing with mental health. It affects others.
Of course. I don't see how anybody couldn't see that, but so many people just don't want to see that and they ignore it. And I keep coming back to talking with my students. They'll be struggling with something and then I'll start, talking, finding out about what's going on at home. And oftentimes it's not just the student that seems to be struggling. It's what's going on at home.
Yes.
The people at home are struggling as well. And you think, man, what can I do to help? And if we can point these students, I'm just absolutely, we're, pointing these students to this solution for them or a help.
It's teenmh.org.
Yeah. And, we got to make we just got to make kids more aware of the places where they can go, because I think a lot of kids too are afraid to even ask for help because they're afraid it's going to cost their family something.
Right.
Financially.
Yeah. Or they're told they can't talk about this.
That's true. A lot of the times they're told, you better not say anything.
Don't tell the family stuff.
Yeah. Don't talk about it because people have that stigma that's attached to it.
And a lot of times all we need is someone to listen. We don't need to get it fixed. We don't need you to give us an answer for it. A lot of times we answer our own things while we're talking.
Right.
And that's anybody. Anybody does that.
That comes back to the CR thing. You sound like an open share. It's CR, and where you just let it out. Yeah. But I'm talking with Amy Lawrence, and she's with NAMI here in Robertson County, and they have meetings, and she's involved, and just a wonderful spokesperson for just being aware of this stuff and not being ashamed to say, hey, I'm struggling, and to also be that that light to say, hey, come here, I can help you if you're struggling. I've been there too. And it's just such a powerful thing. Let me pause and do my last break here. Okay. Coming up on the last chances for me to talk about Highland Rim Speedway, Veterans Motorplex, all the things. I always say Highland Rim because you need to follow them on social media at Highland Rim Speedway, but that is Veterans Motorplex. Veterans Day is Saturday. So yes, of course, they're going to have a race. It's the last one, guys. This is it. This is the end of the season, and gates are going to open up for the folks that are coming to the races at 4. The pit actually opens at 11 a.m. for anybody racing. They got a big 50 laps, $1,000 to win Crown Vic race this weekend. That's going to be fun. If you've not been to the races, here's your chance. Go. It's going to be an awesome weekend. They got a great concession stand. Some of my students are working there, and it's just a good time. It's a good time. Every time I've gone to the races, I've had so much fun, and I cannot begin to tell you what a treasure that is here in our county. It is a family-friendly environment. $40 will get in up to 6 kids and 2 adults for one ticket price. Get in there, and again, their concession stand runs like a little cafeteria. They do it right, and good food, and just a good time watching those cars run around that track. It'll blow your mind. Always local favorites running, and you'll also see sometimes teenagers out there running. It's a lot of fun. And a big race to wrap up the season this weekend, Veterans Day, the Crown Vic race, 50 laps, $1,000 to win. And if you want information, 615, if you're a racer and you want to see about getting out there on the track, 615-430-3135, 430-3135. If you're somebody that's just wanting to go to the races, well, again, gates open at 4. Racing starts at 6, and it'll go up until about 9 o'clock. It's at 6801 Kelly Willis Road in Greenbrier. My friends, Veterans Motorplex, the old Highland Rim Speedway, get out there. Last chance for the season. Get out there this weekend. Tell them U-Turn sent you. Amy, what are we missing that we haven't covered before we wrap up our time?
Well, just to let you know, we have a family-to-family class that we're going to be doing starting in January 13th. It's on Zoom, and it's for 4 weeks. It's from 9 to 2:30 on Saturdays, and the classes involve information such as will be the introduction to mental health, NAMI and family to family, understanding mental health conditions and preparing for the crisis, getting to just know about mental health, no medications, no treatments, things like that. And this is for family members of those who have mental health conditions.
Okay. This
isn't the ones for those with mental health conditions. This is for the family, so that they know how to talk to people. The biggest thing that we hear from that is, I wished I had learned about communication a long time ago, because that it changes the way they communicate with the person with the mental health condition.
Right.
And it makes a huge difference and everything. And we have very good positive feedback from the class. It's for 4 weeks, like I said, on Saturdays, 9 to 2:30. And it starts January 13th. And if they're interested, they can email me or call me. The number is 615-669-2599.
Do that number again.
615-669-2599.
And give me your email.
And my email is NAMI, the number 4, robertsoncounty@gmail.com.
One more time.
NAMI, the number 4, robertsoncounty@gmail.com.
So NAMI is NAMI.
Yes.
NAMI for Robertson County.
Yes.
At gmail.com. Perfect.
Yeah.
I love it. And you were talking about the things that people that they don't know. I actually had somebody say to me after a loved one had passed, and they found out later that they had mental illness that they were not aware of because it wasn't talked about.
Right.
And they were like, man, I wish I'd known that.
Yes.
Because that would have changed the relationship I had with them.
Yes.
It was one of their loved ones. And it's like, we had a terse relationship that maybe could have been mended prior to them passing if I'd only known about this mental health issue.
Right.
What a shame that we, are not more honest about that. And I just think that just, to me, was just like, wow.
Yes, it's a mind blower.
Yeah, it
and
really is.
Everything. Even my family, they didn't accept my mental health condition. Because she's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. or that I went to a psychiatrist or a psychologist all
They
the
want to
time.
hear about it.
They didn't want to hear about it. Or they thought, oh, you're there talking about them.
Yeah.
And it's like,
What are you saying?
I'm talking about me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we're dealing with me, not you.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what they don't understand is that those therapy appointments, they're not about them. They're about the person that's
right.
dealing with it.
I love you,
And that.
sister. Thank you for the work you're doing. We're out of
Thank you.
time, but NAMI meets on the second Tuesday.
Tuesday of the month at 1 o'clock
Stokes-Brown.
at Stokes-Brown. And then on the third Thursday at 6:30 at the YMCA in Springfield.
Very good. Get to know this lady. And again, especially at this time of the year, I think this is a really good timing for us to talk about this because with that darkness coming on us early, don't let it get you guys. Don't let it get a hold of you. Get some help and, just, be a part of the solution. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Amy Lawrence with NAMI of Robertson County. Thank you for being a part of what we have going on here at 1100 WSGI. God bless. Have a wonderful day.